Very nice welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our session called If I'm in Charge Here, Why Is Everybody Laughing? Some ideas on how you can have a little bit of less stress in your life and a bit more fun. Who's interested? Oh, good, we've got the right group. Patricia is going to be the main presenter this morning, and you're in good hands with her because she's exciting, entertaining, vibrant, informed, and she's funny. So, Patricia, over to you.
Thank you, Shane, and thank you all for coming today, and to APHA for inviting us to speak, and the sponsors also for making it possible. So round of applause to you. It is thrilling to be here. Our business is stress, and we know that laughter beats stress. Who's got a bit of stress in their lives, just so we know where we stand this morning? Show of hands. Too much to do, not enough time. Balancing home demands with work demands. Meeting other people's unrealistic expectations. Not enough money. Too much money. Who feels stressed just waking up in the morning now, thinking about the day ahead? Anyone? Or you're okay when you wake up in the morning until you look around and see who you're living with, and then you lose it. Who's married their stress? Who's reproduced little stressors? Wink if your stress carrier is next to you. All right, well, you're in the right place this morning. Our background, well, you'll know that I'm the nurse and Shane's the doctor. I'm the nurse who got lucky. I wanted a doctor all my life. I missed out first time round, but I eventually got one. Nurses here, how many nurses do we have here today? Not nurses? Wannabe nurses. Pretty pleased they're not a nurse. One honest person. Where do you work, Martin? Lovely. And you're glad you're not a nurse. So what do you do? CEO? Chief Excitement Officer? No. Where are the Chief Idiot? Look at you, right in the front, a target. Okay, you are going to get the first prize for the day, which is the whoopee cushion. Round of applause, please, for Martin. So I'm a trained nurse, not educated. I trained on patients. Any trained nurses here? And that's what they were there for. They understood that. Was the days when they weren't all on life support, so it made it a bit easier and they could help you out. They were the days when they were grateful for anything you did for them, and you'd go up to them and you'd say, I've got to give you an injection, it's my first one, and that's where you started. It's funny, you started on the patients, and as you got better at your job, you finished up in the office, and that's the way we did things. And say, I've got to give you an injection, it's my first one, and I'm sure it's different from the orange I've been practicing on in the training room. And they were terrific. They'd say, oh, don't worry, dear, we'll talk you through it. And then you'd say, well, where did the last nurse stick it in? Because that was your evidence base. And you would just stick it in there. And of course, follow the bruise. We had incidents, we had errors, we had, I think they're called unexpected outcomes now. But we didn't have all this evidence-based and accreditation and best practice. We had mortuaries. People came into hospital and they didn't all expect to leave. So we didn't have any stress. How many of you remember those days? In fact, I remember when were patients in hospitals. Anyone in aged care here? Anyone? Clap if you're in aged care. No, looked a bit upmarket, but I was in aged care for a while, so I'd look younger, but I had to get out when the gap closed or the gap narrowed. But I can remember working in a nursing home where we had up and abouts. How many of you can remember up and abouts in acute? And if you'd had a rough night as a nurse at a ball or something, you just had a shower and went on duty, you'd get your up and abouts to help you. They'd put the kettle on. In aged care, you could do what you like. I know one place I worked in Parkside in Adelaide. We were registered, I think, for 20 residents, just happened to have one over. And we'd get a tip-off, though, when the inspectors were coming. I don't think you get that now, do you? It's not fair. And so anyway, the inspectors, we'd hear on their way, we'd have one extra resident. So one that probably wouldn't have known much difference where they were, we'd just wheel into the matron's flat till the count was over, and then. So that was the sort of thing that went on. But anyway, why did I do my nursing? That's what you want to know. Was Dad's idea. He was a plumber, and he was a funny man. How many of you got funny parents? I don't mean weird. Well, okay, let's get that out there. Who's got weird? Who's got parents or had parents with a sense of humour? Well, my father had a sense of humour, and on his plumbing truck he had a sign that read, "In my business, a flush beats a full house." And that was Dad, and it amused him. A lot of his mates never thought that was funny, but what's the first rule of humour? Amuse thyself. How many of you are doing that back at work? You get the joke, and you're bursting to tell someone. You walk into the cafeteria or the meeting and you're dying to tell someone, look around, see who's there and go, nah. Who's with me on that? Anyway, Dad said, good advice, do your nursing, get your ticket and you'll be set for life. And there was a time when you were. And then he thought for a while and said, no, do your nursing, marry a doctor and we'll all be set for life. So I did my best at the Royal Adelaide Hospital. Anyone from Adelaide? Oh, just don't get out. They're still not leaving their state. Anyway, I did my best at the Royal Adelaide, but there weren't a lot of doctors and they went quick. You just couldn't get your hands on any of them. Well, some of my girlfriends did, but no, they weren't fussy. You could always get one or other if you didn't mind what they looked like. I mean, and always close your eyes. And I reckon some of those girls have still got their eyes closed. But as Mum always said in the dark, dear, makes no difference what they look like. And that brings me to Shane. Now, Shane's a late in life find, God love him. He's a recycle. He belonged to someone else. Any of you got a recycle? Alan, where's Alan Cooper? You got a recycle, haven't you, or are you the recycle? It's all recycle in your family, isn't it? And you're happy with your recycle? Who else has got a recycle? Clap if you're happy. Okay, so that's 2 out of 5. Well, Shane's he's an opposite. He's I'm a let's go, let's do it sort of girl. Who's with me? Spontaneous. You know, here's a big idea, don't get bogged down in the detail or the how-to. And Shane holds back. He says, well, let's see how we feel. Let's wait for someone else to volunteer, that sort of thing. He's a bit of an energy conserver. Mum used to...
Patricia peaks early.
I peak early, that's true. But I think in a team we want the ones that go and we want the ones that are going to finish the project. So where are the people more like Shane? Hold back a bit, but you're there at the end of the project. That leaves a lot of people in between probably going to work out in this session where they are. But that's Shane, not a lot to look at, but he's been terrific. We're celebrating our 30th year in our business this year, so round of applause to APHA 33. And we must have been pretty well there at the start, and it's taken about 30 years for you to get us back. But fortunately, not everybody else has felt like that. So many of you have supported our work over the years, and we're grateful to you. Thank you. Especially in the early days when you got the joke, when you could see that things could be easier than perhaps the way people were doing them. So that's Shane. Anything you want to say, Shane?
No, I don't think
All
so.
right. So we can talk about the benefits of laughter and humour. Now, some of you may not laugh in this session. You might just be amused, and that's okay. I mean, you can go up to someone and tell them a joke and you get this. Or that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. You can't always tell how people respond, can you? So you can be amused inside, you can smile, you might just get a smile, or you can have a belly laugh. I favour the laughers. I want laughers around me. I want the snorters. Where are the snorters here? That when they laugh, cafe latte comes out of their nose. Let's give the snorters a round of applause. So the first thing we know about laughter is, oh, thank you, Shane. Got all these notes up here, disclaimer. Can we take risks with humour this morning? Okay, raise your right hand. I promise if there is unpolitical, politically incorrect humour, bad taste humour, risky humour, I will not app it. I will not app a complaint. Okay, you're all clear on that. That's a disclaimer. You know why? Because humour's risky. And someone before we started this morning said, what do you do if you've got a multicultural workforce and they have different ideas or different senses of humour? Always go for the Aussie humour, it's a hell of a start. And Kiwis, where are the Kiwis here? Clap if you're a Kiwi. Oh, give them a round of applause. You obviously didn't come by boat, but it's lovely to have you in our country. No, it's... Do you think you'll settle here sometime soon? But the Aussie sense of humour very close to the Kiwi sense of humour, would you agree? So what do you do if you've got a multicultural? I think the starting point with humour is to look as if you're approachable, is to smile. Some people are never told a joke because walking around like this. they're not here, they didn't think they needed this session, looking miserable to prove how hard they work. How many of you are working with people like that? And you tell them a joke or say, want to start the meeting with a funny story? Not now. Oh, good on you. If I'm in charge here, why is everybody laughing? Is it because you're at work, or is it because you're at the conference? They're finally lightening up a bit. Laughter is a sign of a productive workforce. They're talking about you anyway back at work. What do you think they're saying today? There they go again. Another conference. Hope it works. Hope they come back different. They know you won't. How many have been sitting here with a notepad for 2 days thinking about, now what can I do? How many of you were here for Bruce Sullivan's session yesterday? Didn't he say something like you were born screaming? What happened? Didn't he say something like you hire staff and they're enthusiastic and willing workers at the start, and how do we wind them down? Was that his message? I know he planned to say that, but sometimes you can plan to say something, you get up here and you can change your mind. But so this business of winding people up or engaging them really starts with you, but we're going to make a pathway to that idea through humour. So the first thing about humour is that when you laugh, you relax, you lose control. And that's why women laugh more often than men, because women are used to losing control. Yes, girls? And when our maker was deciding which gender should have the stronger sense of humour, she thought to herself and she said, well, who's got the reproductive system? They're going to need it. How many girls here agree with that? Tell me you can have a pap smear without a sense of humour. Yes? Halfway through the procedure, what does the doctor say?
Just relax.
Just relax.
Or I'll be back in a minute.
I'll be back in a minute, and this won't be cold. And then we give birth. Who's reproduced? And what do the midwives say? Clap if you're a midwife. You tell us, just breathe through the pain. Oh, I haven't got the breathing right. Well, I'll try panting then. I don't look silly enough, I'll add to it. Man gets a headache, he just wants an ambulance. Yes? And then if we live long enough, we have a mammogram. Yes? Who's ever had a mammogram? A machine invented by a man, and I think they should have one for them. Invented by a woman. Who agrees with that? Mammogram stories. I'm thinking of the woman who says she goes in for a mammogram, walks in, they take one look at her and they say, come next door, dear, we've got a bigger machine. Who dreams of that? Okay, we're on our way. We're making our way. Or a woman who recently was having a mammogram, and it's quite a painful procedure, or can be, because I don't want to put the youth of this audience, not that there's a lot of you, off this procedure, but it can be quite painful, and this poor woman fainted and was hanging by one. And the radiographer, inexperienced, had to go and get help, left her hanging. So you'd have to say that was probably a successful procedure, but a poor experience. And you'd be onto that, wouldn't you, in the work you do? So women laugh more often than men. And I think there's another reason why women laugh more often than men, and that's the reason that for which we laugh. I'll try that again. Women laugh more often than men. Another reason is because we choose to live with men. Yes? Most of us? And I think you need a sense of humour. Who would agree with that? And before I die, I want to spend 24 hours of my life as a man so I can walk through my house and see that nothing needs to be done. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be a man? I don't think they see it. I've lived long enough, and I've lived with Shane long enough to know, and one or two others, how many women would agree with me. I don't think fellas see it. I think they can have the best intentions in the world, and they just don't make the connection. And then I want to go into the garden like Shane does and admire all growth. He was watering the other day, he said, that's coming on well, it was onion wheat in full flower. So that's the first thing about laughter. And that's why we punish men. Women can punish men, and we do it, we're cruel in a way, aren't we, Shane?
I've got a question. How many fellas here know you're being punished, but are not sure why?
Well, if we have to tell you, you should know. This is the whole thing. And we can be, girls, stay with me here, we can be cruel. We say, oh, you've done the washing up, have you? And we'll just do this. You watch women at a meeting, when you come up with an idea, they'll go, and if it really stinks, I'll turn to the woman next to them. It's It's all with the eyes, which is why they can get away with it in the operating theatre as well. Where are the people in the operating theatre? Anyway, this woman told us at a seminar one day she's going through a checkout in a supermarket and she's about to pay for her stuff. And, I think she's behind the woman who's about to pay for her stuff. And the woman in front couldn't find a purse. And she's going through everything, couldn't find it. In the end, she's so exasperated, she emptied the whole lot out onto the checkout. Well, the checkout operator looked at what came out the bag and said, "Is that the remote control for the TV?" And the woman said, "Yes, it is. He wouldn't come to the supermarket with me." Who's just got a big idea that you could have a man's happiness in your handbag as you leave the house, and when you get home, girls, you can find it for him? Okay, now fellas, stay with me. I've got some good news for you. Women laugh more often than men. Would you agree with that? Women do laugh more often than men. I used to ask Mum why she giggled a lot. She had 8 children. I said, "Mum, why do you laugh?" And she said, "If you didn't laugh, you'd cry." How many of you have that philosophy at work? Some days you find you giggling uncontrollably about Monday or Tuesday or early in the week. But we punish men. What was I talking about? Oh no, good news for the fellas. Yes, sorry, just finding my brain this morning. The good news for the fellas is that women laugh more often than men, but women are attracted to funny men. Now that's good news. Yes? Because that means you don't have to be good looking if you're funny. And some of you blokes here today should be hugely reassured by that. Let's do an APHA survey here amongst the women. How many women here love to be with a funny man? Come on, have a show of it. Look around. This is your future. Look around. Okay, so that's our first idea about laughter. Time for a stand-up stretch. Everybody up? Yep, on your feet, everybody. I think we'll have some music on. Okay. How many of you would say you made a real effort to get here this morning? Okay. How many would say you're doing a good job where you work? Well, pretty good. The best you can. Show of hands. Okay, I'd like you to turn to the person on your right now and give them a pat on the back. Pat on the back and say, "Well done. Well done."
Do some here.
Other way, well done. Take a seat. Take a seat, everybody. That's a good way to start a meeting or finish a meeting. Is that how you finish a meeting? So everybody up, to the right, pat on the back. Well done, well done. Especially if it's a meeting of bad news, over budget or incidents or whatever else is going on. But, we're still winning. More patients are surviving than we're losing. Is that the sort of thing at the end of a meeting? Personally, having worked in healthcare, I think it's a miracle that anyone gets through their hospital experience. Secretly, how many of you feel that way? I know you can't say it in front of the banner, but give me a little wink. It's just astonishing that so many services can be brought together at the right time for the right patient the right way, so they actually benefit from that. What do you think, Alan? You've got a sense of humour. You've been around the traps. Isn't it a miracle? It is a miracle, thank you. Now, Alan said that, and that counts for... Do you count for something in the APHA, Alan? No, not a lot. You can't. I've met your staff. See, friendly society hospital. So they're the expectations that would worry me, going into a friendly society hospital. You're setting yourself up a bit. It reminds me of, what if the reception says yes? Take your name down. But it reminds me of a fairly recent experience in a big private hospital in Melbourne. Anyone from Melbourne in a big private hospital? Probably yours. I didn't think I'd had enough experience working on the other side of things in healthcare, so I thought I'd be a patient. And I had atypical pneumonia. If you ever had that, it comes as a bit of a shock. But because I'm a nurse, how many of you have been hospitalised? How many? You keep your wits about you. You know to grab the sheepskin and a bottle of Valium on the way out the door, even if you're half dead, which I did. But I got into bed and I was given the manual of what to expect in hospital. Well, this sucker weighed more than any procedure manual I've ever seen in my life. I'm talking, telephone book stuff. If you were sick, you couldn't turn the pages. That's how big this thing was. And the promises, there was going to be rounding. I had to look that up. I had to explore that because I'd never heard of rounding before. I thought that when you're on the night shift, you do a few checks before morning so there's no awful surprises. And then during the day, if you're going into a patient's room for one thing or another, you take a look. But apparently, it's now you get rounded. And so I was sitting up in bed, half dead, but ready to be rounded because I'd got up to that page in the directory. And so here was all these promises of what I was going to get and how much work was going on behind the scenes to secure a noise-free night. None of it was met. No, you've got to be careful what you promise. Who agrees with that? Alan, do you agree with that? Don't promise things, you see, and that's why when I trained, we had no stress. We promised nothing. And that's what worries me about this. That's what worries me about your program. Pull back. Pull back. You're only competing with the public sector. Take a holiday. You know, I can't even read some of these abstracts, let alone get there. We didn't have this. We had go to work, do your best, go home. Head count at the end of a shift. And we didn't have all the meetings because we were with the patients. Have we got any NUMs here, any nurse unit managers or mid? No, because they're too worn out to make it here. They're probably with their patients, which is where they should be. Anyway, I've settled that. But do you agree sometimes we promise too much? What are we doing? Pull back. I hope I'm not setting up the next speaker. Who is that? But I think he's got a good reputation, hasn't he? Who's your next speaker, Martin? Michael O'Brien? No? Mark O'Brien. Oh, he's made a big impression on you. Where is he? Oh, well, let's have a chat about this. What have you got in mind, Mark? You're the only one to have been invited back since last year. It's taken us 20 years to get invited.
As soon as I saw engaging, I started getting worried.
I know. Are you doing engaging?
No, I don't do engaging.
Oh. If I engage engaging or evidence-based or rolling out, if I see one more project rolled out because some manager couldn't work out that being nice to their staff was part of their frickin' job, that's the last time I'm going to use the F word. But there's a time when you've got to use that. How many of you run meetings? Hold that word back for the big impact. But Mark, what's your message going to be? Not that I want to preempt anything, but perhaps I can... It'll be distressing. What, have you got bad news or what? What is the bad news? Let's get it over with now. We can finish off with a laugh. I don't want to steal your thunder, and I don't think that's possible because you're going to be... You look a whole lot more qualified than me. You'll probably get a full auditorium for one thing. There you go. Anyway, I'm thrilled you're here. It's lovely. Let's give Mark a round of encouragement. He should have got the whoopee cushion. I'll have to think of something else for you. But it sounds like you've got a sense of humour. How many of you could not do your job without a sense of humour? How many of you say, I don't care how hard the job is, I won't do it without a sense of humour? How many of you suspect that you've lost your sense of humour, or it's weakened, or it's not, you need to recover that sense of humour? Because what your team want, I mean, this is the thing about laughter. The big thing about laughter is it gets you into a good mood. And if engagement's not about mood, I now can check with Mark, mood's got to be in there, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Happy staff that want to come to work. The end of a shift, they've got 2 days off and you can't get them out the place because they're so happy. That's what it's like working for Alan. He's told me that. He said he just can't get rid of his staff at the end of shifts. They love it there. But it's about mood. And so laughter's a part of that. Well, let's have a look at the next few benefits of laughter. You're going to give some humour, are you? Okay, so how do you boost your sense of humour? You've got to make time for it, don't you? You've got to say, what is in this? Look, we've got a serious side and a fun side. How many would say your serious side's winning at the moment? So if you can do the job that you people do, the humour's easy. All you have to do is pull back, lighten up a little bit. Yes? Smile a little bit more, because that's what your staff want. Okay, one way to do that is to access humour, and Shane's got some good PowerPoint humour for you this morning. What have you got, Shane?
Well, first I'm going to start off with my PowerPoint presentation.
Thanks for being amused. It's a favourite of Shane's. Okay, do you want a joke to start your meetings? So I woke up with rashes the other morning and called the swine flu hotline, and they put me on hold. All I got was crackling. Well, that's got to be an opener, doesn't it? Now, here's the thing about using humour back at work or in your personal life. Always laugh at your own jokes. Because if you don't think they're funny, who else is going to think they're funny? And if no one else laughs, you're still in front. Yep. It's risky humour. That's why we had a disclaimer, can we take a risk? How many of you have gone for the humour and it's died? Blame it on someone else. I got that from the CEO this morning. Just move it across. But you've got to take the chance. And the risk is in the surprise, that people won't know what you're getting to. This fellow's doing a jigsaw puzzle. And he said afterwards, he said, I'm so proud of myself. It only took me 2 weeks to do this. And when I looked at the box, it said 2 to 4 years. See now, okay, we'll use that at a meeting if you think that's going to be better than swine flu. But how easy is that? You didn't see that coming, did you? All right, okay. What do you got, Shane?
Whoops. Found this on my new Windows program. I've got some signs from around the world that aren't meant to be funny, but they are.
So this isn't Photoshop.
Now, I think this person was poorly advised with their signage.
What are the benefits of laughter? What about amusing other people? You know, if you can get someone to smile or laugh, you can get them on your side. Have you noticed how Virgin Airlines, I think it's Virgin Australia now, they have signs, but they're funny. I walk around hospital and read some of the signs and you want to lose all hope. Why is it, by the way, that in children's hospitals, how many of you got a children's ward or you have children in your area? Any involved with children? Why are children's hospitals and wards bright and colourful and engaging and uplifting, and then when you get to an adult hospital you want to abandon all hope? What is that? Let me ask you something. Do you think healthcare celebrates life? Is it a celebration of life? Yep, of course it is. If it's not, don't resuscitate, let the buggers go. Why do we make such a fuss of all these standards if we're not celebrating life? We want people to have their best quality of life, whatever their circumstances, whatever their diseases. We want to bring them back from the dead so that they can enjoy life. We're celebrating life. And when you have a celebration, you have all the things that APHA has put into this program. You have the dinners, you have the drinks, you have the friendship, you have the dancing. Was there dancing last night? You have the colour, the colours. And this is a terrific attempt, APHA. I love these little squares. This is so close to, you know, a celebratory look. What else do you have? You have food, yes? Laughter. These are the hallmarks of a celebration. So ask yourself if that's going on in your hospital or where you work. Because that, Mark, got to have something to do with engaging. How would you like to come to some of these wards and work in, although I suppose your places are terrific, are they? People walk in, they'll go, wow, the wow factor when they walk into your department or ward. Who's not got a ward? Who's running food services or something like that? Or cleaning or, yep, what do you run? So what, you're on the negotiating contracts. Okay, so you're hiring people to come in and spread the joy. Negotiating money. That's the most important thing in the whole world. Now, what have I got for you? Money. Let me just look for a minute. Oh, these are signs for meetings. I like this. There should be more of this. How can you get an outbreak of joy when people can't hug each other anymore? Thanks. Chill out. Shane, I'm looking for the $100 notepad if you can just have a little... Well, this is a good one. Hold on to that. And if Mark loses his way, I want you to hold it up. You're in charge. Actually, for the rest of the day. Round of applause for Martin, that's a big responsibility. Yep, okay, thank you. Now these are $100 notepads, but how good's this? So you go to work one day, so you don't have to be funny, you just have to buy some funny stuff. So on the way to your office, you drop $100 notes. Who's in rehab? See how fast your patients can move. This is how easy is this? So you just have a few props and all your notes going out to prospective, is money. There you go. Would you like a few? You've got some extra children. I'm going to bump yours up. I'm going to give you 10. There you go. You got a sense of it. But isn't this easy? You get these from souvenir shops. Okay, so now influencing people to inspire, motivate, to get people on your side. Is there information you're having to give your staff or behaviour you're wanting to influence that they're not interested in? Yep. So how amusing do you make it? Is it fun? Because if you can get someone on your side, if you can make them smile or laugh, they really will do more of what you want them to do. I think sometimes we give these directives, or we put something in an email expecting some magic to occur in transmission. Email. Motivating by email. Oh. Mark, I hope you're going to say something about that. I really do. Edward de Bono. The other thing about laughter and humour is to be creative. Let me ask you a question. Is it possible that the best, it's going to be rhetorical, best way of running a hospital may not have been thought of yet? Or let me put it this way. Are the challenges now and in the future? For example, never before in the history of the world have so many people grown old at the same time. One of the breakthroughs in humankind in the last 100 years is that we now, life has been extended by 30 years. That's incredible. You'd be picking that up as an association, wouldn't you? Because so many people are old and they're in hospitals. So we've got to get a way of sorting them out and looking after them, so we move them on, at least back into the public sector or somewhere else. But that's our challenge. So is it possible that the way that you do your job and the things that you want to achieve, you need some help with? What do they say neuroticism is? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And I wonder if we do the same thing. I think healthcare is full of habit. Mark, want to comment or want to save that? He's going to save that. He's going to I know where you're going. But so what does de Bono say about perception? In other words, the way that you see things. And these are good in a meeting. Okay, lighten up everyone. I want you to look, we're on us all to look at this situation in a different way. In how many ways? Did Bruce say something about your frontliners having ideas, people coming on staff with ideas, and then before long they're just walking around like everyone else? I don't think there's a shortage of ideas in healthcare. I think it's picking them up and running with it. I think, and this evidence-based, now who are the clinicians here? Sort me out on this, help me out on the evidence-based thing. So say you come up with an idea, right? And here's the idea, I'll just pick one off the top that they tried to introduce at the Royal Adelaide. And it was a light that an enrolled nurse saw in Bunnings that is movement sensitive. And she said if you put that under the beds of older patients on the night shift when they start to get out, I know there's other ways of letting you know that they're on the move, but the light would come on. And so these things cost just a few dollars at Bunnings. Why don't we stick one under every bed? Well, she couldn't get it introduced because it wasn't evidence-based. So help me out here. How do you get it to be evidence-based in order to try something new? Is there a risk that the good ideas are being lost when we are desperate for them in healthcare? Yep, would you say? At your level, managers and leaders, it's all about ideas because you know how to do your job. By the way, as you get older, two things should be happening. I think we're an ageing group. Yes? Your job should be getting easier and your life more fun. Who's going the wrong way? Just let me check that. Why should your job get easier? Because you know the things to worry about and the things not to worry about. And why have more fun in life? Because you are running out of time. So just help me out on the evidence base. What happens to great ideas now? Because it's ideas, ideas, ideas. Or it used to be. How many want to comment on that? Want to say anything? Up. Alan, want to comment on that? How do you get something to be, how do you introduce something for a trial if it's not evidence-based? You trial it anyway, bang it in. It's not evidence-based, it's probably going to be good. If it's a good idea, try it. Do you all agree with that? If it's a good idea, oh, but it's not policy. There's policy, and we haven't got a procedure for it. I don't know, all I know is I sat in a private hospital for a week and I didn't see anything that was promised in the guide, the book of promises. What is it? The patient guide. I'm sitting there with pneumonia and the breeze is coming through the air conditioning system, and I'm talking breeze that you can see the curtains flapping. And so I said to my RN, I'm sitting here with pneumonia and I'm cold. And what worries me is that I'm going to get a virus on top of my pneumonia. It's probably rare, but I'm sitting here thinking that while that's going on. And she said, well, I don't think there's much we can do. So the first night I was under covers to protect myself from the wind. The next morning didn't wake up because I hadn't been to sleep, because a quiet night wasn't, as was promised in the guide, in the manual. So I said, I'll need to see the nurse unit manager, who we hadn't met yet. She doesn't see patients. So when she came in, I said, there's a problem with this air conditioning and it'll have to be fixed, or you'll have to find me another bed. I realise that that's the threat that's taken seriously in a private hospital. Find another bed. So she said, I'll see what I can do. Nothing happened. And so I kept agitating, and you've got a number of staff you can work through. Because eventually someone's going to pick up the phone. So lo and behold, someone is in the toilet up in the manhole. And I worked out it wasn't a nurse, they're in, maintenance gear. And suddenly the wind stops. So I said, what did you just do? He said, oh, it's a simple thing, you just adjust the... Then do you know what he did? He said, I'll give you my number in case you need to call me again. No one thought that was weird. And I was suddenly in charge of maintenance for the bay. How many of you were squirming? This is real. And that night, my RN comes on and she's blowing her nose and sniffling, and she'd been on the night before, so I knew she'd just got a virus. So I said, we're going to have to do something about this. So I called the night supervisor, because they're the ones that have communication skills and problem-solving expertise. And he came up and I said, look, there's a problem here. I've got pneumonia, and my nurse is going to be over me giving these IV... I'm so proud of myself for hanging in there and living through this, because there's two things. One was getting through the pneumonia and the other was negotiating the system. And honestly, I don't know how I did it. But I'm very proud of myself. How many of you in that situation would be proud? How many of you would have just said, oh, bugger it, I'm going to keel over and die. I'm just going to... There's one way out of this. So it's easier to die. So the night supervisor came in and I said, now we've got a problem here because the RN who's been assigned to me has got a virus and I've already got pneumonia and she's going to be very close to me tonight. What did he say? What do you want me to do about it? And I said, well, for a start, I see it really as your problem. Well, he said, if we were to send every nurse home who turned up with a sniffle, where would we be? And he stopped. I think the bell must have rung that this probably wasn't going to be good risk management stuff. And the bell rang and he said, well, you know, I'll see. She could just have hay fever. And I said, well, has she or hasn't she? And then he said, you don't expect me to know the medical history of every nurse. I can tell you what sort of night I had after that. Miserable. I had the nurse with a mask, but I was punished. You see, now what's going on there? And here's my big information book and before I left the ward a week later, I said, look to the nurse unit manager, I said, you've got to see your patients every day. I can't give you, a management course, but I can tell you that, and I can leave you with our book, Doctor, I Feel Funny. I didn't even have this sucker out. I could have had that on well, they wouldn't have seen it. They wouldn't have seen it because no one came near me. The only thing I was ever asked was, can I get you anything? Florence Nightingale would have turned in her grave. Well, nothing I can think of, because you know what? I'm the sick one. And so I said, I'll leave you with this book, and I'm not going to discuss this with customer service. It was, 12-year-old in charge of customer service, and she phoned and said, I hear you're unhappy because the consultants told us. And I said, well, I'm hoping to sort this out with the nursing unit manager because I don't want punishment, I want education. And I said, call me, if you'd like a cup of coffee, and I'll talk to you about some of the things that I've seen in your ward. No. And even though I sent a copy of that to the customer service department in that hospital, no one followed it up. So you can see why I'm saying what I'm saying today, and it's not just sour grapes, because I reckon I could pick just about any hospital. Be careful what you promise patients. And isn't this what we're on about? How can someone have that experience? Oh, and I haven't mentioned the 3 other patients that I was looking after in my bay. I don't think it's fair for me to go on about that. But I will just make one point about the 80-plus-year-old next to me who had skin grafts on her ulcers in this large private hospital, who was being looked after by a couple of RNs. I think they might have been new, coming through, and she was sitting out of bed. The big thing about this hospital, by the way, the food services was brilliant. The food was brilliant. Nutritional, hot and fast delivery. When it got to the patient, that's where it had to stop. Because nurses have decided, for whatever reason, that food's a non-nursing duty. And if anything I've failed in the 30 years I've been involved with healthcare, I have failed to help nurses see that there's a relationship between nutrition and healing. I've failed. There I go. Anyone with me? Anyone who has also failed? You ask the nurse in charge of a patient what that patient's eaten during their shift, they can't tell you. So there's the 80-plus-year-old. They've sat her out of bed, can't get to any of the food because it's all inaccessible for lots of reasons, and the staff at 8 o'clock in the morning are making her bed. That was going to be the SA beds before breakfast. And I turned into a matron. I've never done this before. I was getting my strength back. It was about day 4, and I said, "What are you girls doing?" It was wonderful. Who would have been proud of me? Who's lived long enough? "What are you girls doing?" And they went. I said, "This patient needs to eat her breakfast and you're making her bed on top of her. You should be sitting there assisting her with the food." Well, my care just went really downhill after that. But they couldn't see that. That's what worries me. Now, why am I getting back to De Bono? Because we have to find ways of changing the experience for patients. Because I think we get the outcomes, but the experience that they have, that's why you want engagement, isn't it? To overcome these sorts of problems. And what De Bono says about humour is it changes the way that you see things, and suddenly possibilities make sense. So if you're having a meeting and you've got a problem, you don't want a meeting where you're sitting there, someone died in this meeting last month and no one even noticed. You want to start the meetings with, "Okay everybody, let's have a stand-up break." We'll do that now. Everyone on their feet. Up, 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 beautiful. Put your chicken hat on. Walk into the meeting, "Good morning." Remember, they're talking about you anyway. We need ideas. Ideas, the lifeblood of progress. We need to light our teams up. Now, how many of you feel that you could approximate that with a little encouragement? And so then what happens when you brainstorm, when you say, okay, you can be silly, you can have some fun because you've started your meeting perhaps in your chicken hat, or perhaps not. Perhaps you started it with music. Yes, that's me at the repat doing my rounds. You could have fun once. That was, remember Life Be In It? We had a Life Be In It day. I did my rounds on a pogo stick and thought nothing of it. Someone must have, because they took a photo. Anyway, that's just self-indulgent. Thanks for indulging me. So you have a door prize and you have music. We got some music? Yes. Let's have a little bit of Peter Allen, please, John. Loosen up, everybody. Do you have stand-up breaks at your meetings? Clap. Everybody, come on. Rio de Janeiro. For dancing, for romancing, of my heart. Okay, take a seat, everybody. Thank you, John. Now you could do that. If I'm in charge here, why is everybody laughing? You want them laughing. Because you know what? I'm betting that you get the big things right. I'm betting that you get the results. You can't stay on staff any longer, can you, if you're not getting the results? So how many of us get the big things right, but the little things that could make a difference? And wasn't Bruce talking about that yesterday? All little things. If one ward has it, they'll all want it. If two mums want to job share, they'll all want to. Truth is, if we're not going to be flexible with our workforce, we're not going to have one. And what gets in the way is our conditioning. We start thinking like people who think in healthcare. And when I, years ago, set up my business as a management consultant, I'm going to need a chair, Shane. I'm going to demonstrate this because I think people remember it. When I set my business up as a management consultant, and that was in 1983, my first client was the Austin. And I don't know if any of you know the former director of nursing there, Ray Anstey. Fortunately, I didn't, or I probably wouldn't have taken the job on. But I had a degree in administration, thanks Shane, and I went to the Australian Institute of Management to get a book on how you consult. And the book said you interview staff and you ask them what they're doing, they think they should stop, or what they're not doing, they think they should start. And then you write it all up in a glossy thing and charge a bomb. So I bought myself a Fletcher Jones suit. I got some business cards made. I had no assets. I lived in a flat at St Kilda. I didn't even have a car. I had to get 2 trains out to Austin. And I worked out how long the review of the nursing division, because that's what I was going to do, would take on the way out. I was making notes on the train. I'd never seen the hospital. As the train's pulling into Heidelberg Station, I looked up at this sucker and made it 4 weeks instead of 2. And then when I arrived, I came in through the car park so people wouldn't think I'd come off the train, because now it's trendy to do that, but then a consultant's meant to have a car. And I actually bought a car, not that you'll want to hear this, but it's sort of funny in a way. I bought a car out of the proceeds of the work at the Austin, and bugger me if I didn't park it in the hospital and some whopping CIG truck backed into it and rode it off. I don't know, there's a moral there, I'm not sure what it is. But here's a story. Someone said the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. I reckon Ray Anstey was in there. The Austin giveth and the Austin taketh away. Anyway, here's the thing I want to tell you. Is your conditioning, Mark, is conditioning part of the problem when we want to try new things? Absolutely. See if you follow this. So I'm waiting for the director of nursing. I've been greeted. The CEO brought me in, not the director of nursing, by the way. That made it easier and difficult at the same time. So I've got my Fletcher Jones suit on, and I'd read a book on image. We're talking 80, so I didn't have, shoulder pads out here, but I was certainly sitting like, not a nurse. And it was thrilling to be welcomed into the hospital through the front door and not the uniform room. I couldn't get over it. I was full of myself. Well, what do you reckon? You need a bit of guts, wouldn't you, to take that on? Yep, guts, confidence in yourself. And that's another thing, don't get me started. Self-doubt at a senior level, no good. I'm sitting there waiting for the director of nursing to come out, and all the nurses are walking past in their uniforms. The director of nursing came out, and this is what I did. Till I realised, and then I... But the point I'm making is that conditioning. And it's so easy. And I think Bruce would have been talking about that. People come fresh and then we turn them into staff. And we say, no, 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 no. And the thing about humour and laughter is, it's a pathway. It not only changes the way that you see things or can, and some of the ideas that staff come up with are silly, but some are fabulous, aren't they? How many of you know an idea that at the time you thought, oh, get a grip? Even De Bono says you should think of 2 positive things before you say anything negative about an idea. I just think the system's so tight, and by the way, a lot of it you've got nothing to do. You can't help yourself because, there's so much legislation now and so many standards, and I know a little bit about aged care. Is it like that for you with accreditation? Well, what did you do, Alan? You said you're not going to be accredited anymore. He sent them packing, didn't you? The surveyors? I know someone, I don't know if it's your hospital, I know someone who took the surveyor to task and said, I won't have you talk to my staff like that. It's demoralising. We work hard here. You've got to get someone on, you don't put up with that. You work too hard for someone to come in off the street and have a good look at what you're doing and say it's not good enough. And no, I'm not greeting the surveyor, I'm with my patients. Or if you do greet them, why not greet them in a funny hat? Oh yes, this hospital has a sense of humour. Another hat. Well yes, why not? You might have preferences. Oh, say you arrive for work in the morning crabby. Let people know. I know they just... You don't have to be funny. If you've got the guts to put this on, go back from the conference, go through your kids' dress-up bins. It might be even a parrot. You might start small. You might get your confidence up on the little parrot. Or the frog hat. This is a good look. See? What's this saying? And so you're looking at the patients, those of you in senior position, go and talk to the patients if you want to find out what's happening in your hospital. And you walk in with your frog hat and they say, what's with the frog hat? And you say, oh, we have to wear these now. It's a directive. It's a directive from the government. No, I have to wear this to remind me not to take myself too seriously. Because if I take myself too seriously, I'm going to get stressed. If I get stressed, I get sick. If I get sick, I can't be here for you. Or if I take myself too seriously, I won't bring out the best in my team. Because they know you're there for getting the results, but they want you to be friendly. They want a sign that you're approachable and that you've got a sense of humour. This is a clear sign. And you might say, well, that's too much for me. So you might go for something a little simpler. It might be just a little bit of floral. It might be a propeller hat. It might be just, some little, tiara. Wear that in your next meeting. And people will say, what's with the tiara? And you'll say, isn't it obvious? I'm a manager here. Yes, our hospital celebrates life. We take what we do seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. Some people live miserable lives because they take themselves too seriously. We all know the genius with a growl, good at their job. Who knows one? No one wants to work with them. Friendliness over competence, give me friendliness every day and we'll get their skills up. But it's the ones you can't approach. Okay, is this making sense to you? Mark, want to make a comment at this stage? Because I don't want you to get up here next session and kill this one. Well, you know what I mean when I say that. No pressure, but don't say, has she gone yet? And I'll get down. Now we've had the fun. Now, the other thing we want to say about laughter and humour is this. Yes, I'm going to get back to the thank you, Shane, the benefits of laughter. I want to say that a little bit more about mood. I want to say that right now you're in a certain mood, aren't you? And it's a Tuesday at the APHA conference mood. And why are you in the mood you're in now? Well, here's the thing. You're away from work, which is good. You've got a few ideas. Really looking forward to Mark. There'll be a lovely lunch on. Sponsors, they've come through on the food. Fill your pockets, they don't want the food left. Alan, you've got a big family now. You take a little... Actually, we've got something for Alan, haven't we? Where's the suitcase, Shane? I brought him a lunch pack. I'll just get that out. They're Florentines, Alan. And I knocked them up thinking about you. I could have got some cheap book. And I thought, no, I'm going to bake.
But Patricia is not domestically gifted. We call our kitchen the Burns unit. She uses the smoke alarm as a timer.
Thank you very much for recommending it, Alan. Well, I wanted you to take something home. What are you taking back to your team? You're going shopping before you go back, or are you going to walk in? Oh, what was the conference like? Oh, free food. You know, some of the speakers weren't bad. Laughter was a waste of time. Now let's get back to, so this business of mood, the mood you're in now. Is it true to say that on any one day you're in a mood and it can change over time? Like you can wake up in the morning, hold your first meeting, it's all over. See who you're working with, it goes. Have a look at the roster, take the first phone call problem, and your mood shifts. When you're in a good mood, managers and leaders, what happens? What are the benefits of being in a good mood? Is it worth anything? Is it worth being in touch with the mood you're in and lifting it any way you can? How important is being in a good mood to a manager or leader? Question. Okay, what happens when you're in a good mood? You meet requests more readily? Are you better on a Friday than a Monday? If I want something from someone who works in healthcare, especially at a senior level, never on a Monday. Never make the call. Nor a Tuesday, not even a Wednesday. Getting close on Thursday, not too late on Friday because they want to get away. So when you're in a good mood, what happens? Do you make better decisions? Of course you do. Are you better to be with? When you walk into a work area, what's your mood like? When you're in a good mood, good morning everybody. Morning. So I had a procedure at that big hospital I'm talking about recently in their radiology department, and quite an intensive procedure. Anyway, you don't need the details. All I need to say is that I walked into this hospital, into the lift, and someone who didn't know me from Adam, wasn't part of the department I was headed for, smiled and said good morning. A stranger who worked in the hospital in the lift. Good morning. That got my hopes up. When I got to the department, I had a successful procedure and a very poor experience of that. Because when I walked up to reception, they said, yes? Well, I don't know if you're expecting me, but I've been expecting to be here for 2 weeks now. Of course, you don't say that. But the way that I was managed. So that smile, if you're in charge, good morning, hi, can I get you? And half the time, I know how you feel. You don't want people to even see you, let alone eye contact. They'll give you a problem. You know, get the pot plant, walk through patient areas. It's probably not as bad as that. But when you're in a good mood, are there fewer accidents when people are in a good mood? When you're in a good mood, is hard work easier? What if it's like this? What if you've got the knowledge base? What if you've got the experience? And now your biggest challenge is keeping yourself in a good mood, lifting your mood. And how does laughter help? A woman in a nursing home's in the residents' dining room, and when she says to the other residents, she says, if you can guess what's in my hand, you can make wild, passionate love to me tonight. And this old codger at the back of the room calls out, an elephant. She says, close enough. There you go. There's a mood lifter, isn't it? Healthcare's a funny business. There's things that should make you smile all the time. But do you know when you're in a low mood? I talk to people when they're in a low mood. I say, hi, how are you? Any outbreaks of joy you're in? As someone said once, I'd rather be a joy germ than a bitchy bacteria or a vicious virus. But I hear them, I'm just going to a meeting. Or he's in a meeting. I say, get him out. They've never heard that before. It's all right. Oh, wait, go and get him. People at meetings when they should be at patients, with their patients. So when you're in a good mood, does it make a difference? Okay, what about your staff? What do you do to lift their mood? What if engagement's not about mood, a team being in a good mood, a hospital being in a good mood? Alan, talking to Alan on the phone, and you can get Alan on the phone, but he doesn't reply to emails, and that's just a weakness, and we love him, we accept that. Alan, what did you say to me when I said, tell me about culture? Because it's culture, all about culture, which is people being happy at work, isn't it? Yep. And Alan, you told me that whatever problems your staff have got at home, do you want to hear what he said? Oh yeah, they're all lit up. Well, you're going to... Who are your heroes? You should be listening to anyone who can get the results in any way that they... I think sometimes they're closer to home. You know who hires Bruce Sullivan? How many of you saw him yesterday? New York, the Americans. Don't let them have him. Hire him, if he makes sense. So, Alan, what did you say to me about when staff come to work, they should...
I wish you'd prepare me before you come and use me. I do much better under a
See, now there you want to be prepared. You can save a life in a hospital in less than 3 minutes, that's all you've got. But now we want to be prepared for a little... If someone comes up with an idea, we'll put that to a committee and set up a working party. That's called the kiss of death. What we want is a little spontaneity. No one's on the end of this, not a life or death. But I'd be interested in your philosophy. The question is, what did you say to me on the phone about staff have their problems at home, but the culture that I promote and I'm working on is that when they come to work...
This is part of when I greet my staff firstly with orientation, is that the first thing I say to them is that I want them, no matter what their home life is like, that when they come to us, we're a haven in their world, so that they come with an excitement, they have come with a release and also a calmness of knowing that we're safe and that we keep them safe for them.
Yeah, give him a round of applause. You see, sometimes it's just someone saying something like that. Whatever the problems at home, when they come to us. And then he would go on, because I've talked to him, I know he says this, he'd go on to say, if there's anything that you can see that needs improving, let us know. Mark, is that engagement? Okay. I can't wait for your session. I don't think I'll go back to Melbourne. I'm going to hang around and sit here. I'll watch Mark. Okay, so what are the things that lift your mood? Thank you. Thank you, Alan. The things that lift your mood. All right, the first thing, I think we need to lift the environment of adult hospitals. I think the kids' hospitals have got it right. Colour and movement. Look at this. This is pretty easy, isn't it? What about an outbreak of joy? What about bringing in some musicians? They need the money and you need what they can do for you. What else? What about dress-up days? Where's my handout, Shane? I've got a ton of these for you today. Don't go without the handout. What can you do to lift mood? Start meetings with a few minutes of a funny DB. Oh, start job interviews with a joke. Tell them they've got to bring a joke. Start with a joke. Why? Because they're terrified. You're managing anxiety in healthcare. Patients are anxious, visitors are anxious, and the staff are anxious that they get it right. You're dealing with anxiety. Anything that lowers that. What else? Add humour to notice boards. I look at notice boards, I can tell you a lot about this particular private hospital, but I've been through other hospitals as well, and the notice boards are terrible. Everything's... The Royal Adelaide has big signs through their hospital for the nurses on how to give a handover. Not even a comment on that. Oh, what does he add? Yeah, Shane's Friday Funnies. Some of you get his Friday Funnies. Clap if you do. So every Friday... You're going to have a lot of people joining today. Every Friday, Shane puts out the best internet humour. If you want to join, you've got to leave your business card. That's all you're going to get, something free. We won't sell you anything. No steak knives. But what the Royal Adelaide does, they make copies of the jokes, cut them up, put them in a big barrel basket at the entrance of the hospital with you can take a joke on. Yep, that's a hit. How many a week? 1,000 a week? 1,000 jokes a week are taken. What else? Celebrate success with humour. If you get accredited or whatever else you do, any other milestone, you want to hire a comedian or have dress-up days or whatever else. Memorise a few jokes and share them. Give survival kits to new staff. How easy is that? And there are people on staff who want to do this. I know some of you sitting there, I'm not going to go home tonight and make up survival kits, but people want to do this. Have routine breaking activities. Treasure hunts, talent quests, competitions. And people say, your staff have gone mad. Oh no, we're very good at what we do. We have a terrific success rate with our patients. But we can't take ourselves too seriously. It's not good for our health. And when we're light-hearted, when we're having a little bit of fun, we come up with better ideas. We work better, we're happier. We turn up for work when we're rostered on. Oh yes. Become a humour consumer. You can order a chicken hat. Don't delay. Get one for your executive team. Make them wear them. If they can't wear a chicken hat, then they've got to find an alternative. Chickenhat.com. Add humour to newsletters. Have Magic Mondays, Wacky Wednesdays. Go back and say to your team, what can we do to have more fun? Seriousness has no healing qualities at all. Patch Adams says that. What else? Of all the forms of courage, laughter is the most therapeutic. Take your team to comedy shows. That's easy. Have your staff laugh together. That's engaging. Give staff rooms and cafeterias a lift. What can you put in there? Games to play, dress up bin. $2 shops, make signs funny. We've said that, make it fun for people to learn. Set up a fun committee. Does this make sense? Good. All right. Let's have some more humour. Oh, right, we're finishing up. I'm just hitting my straps too. You know what that's like in a meeting? You just... Okay, so let me just, by way of an introduction, say, how do you develop your sense of humour? Funny DVDs. See, I'd have Carry On Nurse showing in the waiting areas of a private hospital. Kath and Kim, The Castle. This is what I'd have on instead of your... nothing against your APHA visions of, you know, people doing good work, but you people know that. I wonder if you need to roll that over. I'd be putting the Carry On Nurse. That's what I'd be doing. How to Kill Your Husband and Other Handy Household Hints. Column 8, very funny. Reader's Digest, very funny. Collecting humour. You don't have to generate it, you just have to find it. And then you might get yourself a fun case. You might think that's going over the top, so you'll get something else. Oh, the nurses' competitions, don't forget, before we finish up. How are we going? So I don't want to be late.
Wait. All right.
Okay, as a treat for you today, we've got winning entries from what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you as a nurse competitions that we've run. And I recommend that you run some of those competitions.
No, we'll do those now.
We'll do those now. I'm so excited. You see, if it amuses you once, it'll amuse you again. Nurses, we're funny. Nurse, what are you doing? I just thought, you're not here to think that you need a sense of humour. Okay, this is from Accident and Emergency in New Zealand, Waikato Hospital. Yep, no, not Waikato, up the top. Whakatane, I never like saying that word. Whangarei. Whangarei? Yep, you know Whangarei? It's not important. From a nurse who works in accident emergency. In a packed waiting room, a naked middle-aged woman with lots of fat rolls walked into the department past the kids and security to announce in a loud voice, "I've just been dropped off by a 737 and I need to see the captain." Security shocked, kids delighted. A patient had come into A&E with a sore ankle. When the nurse went to assess him, he said, "There's something I have to tell you." And the nurse said, "Well, what's that?" And he said very seriously, "The doctor that saw me at the last hospital said it was very important for me to tell the doctor whenever I go to hospital that I only have one neuron." Oh yeah, these are entries. No, you want to see what we've kept home. Okay, so this is during my time student nurse at the Royal Melbourne Hospital. I was carefully unwrapping my first dressing tray to do my first dressing on an elderly diabetic man's little toe. I carefully poured the solution into the tray, picked up my forceps and swabbed the toe. I then needed to separate the little toe from the next one. Ever so gently I placed the forceps on the little toe and moved it to the right. Sadly, the toe became separated from the rest of the foot and terror took over me. So I put it back alongside the other toe, wrapped it up and left it for the next shift. Couple more. This is in the operating theatre on the a vascular surgeon at this hospital who spoke to nursing staff so badly that one nurse started crawling around on the theatre floor looking under the drapes. And when the surgeon said, "What on earth are you doing down there, nurse?" she said, "I'm just looking for the dog you're talking to." Any nurses that can generate these stories can achieve great things. So, this is the fine print. And here are my reading glasses. You see, you could get a pair of something like this. So, this story was it was an endoscopy. He and the performing a routine colonoscopy on an 80-year-old lady. 80-year-old. After administering appropriate levels of sedation, the procedure commenced. Due to a difficult section of the bowel near the splenic flexure, the doctor performed a manoeuvre by inserting and removing the colonoscope several times to negotiate the sharp corner. The patient at this stage let out a small groan and said, "Is that you, Harry?" It took several minutes for the team to regain their composure, and it took a brave doctor to maintain a straight face while talking to the patient's husband, Harry. This is my absolute favourite. This makes me smile in the middle of the night when I think about it. So this was a first-year student nurse. It happened to her when she was nursing a patient. She still remembers the name, Mrs. Loveridge. She was a long-term quadriplegic. And this morning she had to do a sponge. And this woman had a definite procedure for a sponge, and no one ever deviated from it. With the knees knocking, scared to death, I managed to squeak hello and got on with the sponge. And shows how old it is, remembering to use different face cloths and never uncovering more than one limb at a time. So that's going back. Finally finishing and getting to the task of cleaning her dentures. I took her teeth carefully to the basin and got out her toothbrush and paste. And I spread a good lot onto the toothbrush and then cleaned my own teeth. Do you want to finish? Okay. Just before morning tea, some visual humour.
I want to show you two. You know how people say there's always somebody worse off than you?
Yep, helps.
Here's the first one. But this is the winner.
Put up a humour board, that's easy.
All right, yep. Here's my favourite Vic Road sign. And for occupational health and safety. This is my favourite cartoon. My wife may well have the right to remain silent, she just doesn't have the ability. Dear, if you're going to pad your bra with Kleenex, take them out of the box first. Didn't you get my email? This is for all the managers here. You slept with her, didn't you? Urology department, can you hold? Now I'm just going to finish up with some politically incorrect humor.
I think this is your group. There's only a minute in this. Close your eyes if you think you'll be offended. The politically incorrect, da-da-da-da.
Well, Virgin Australia's got a new competitor.
Slut. Which one would you fly? Someone at a seminar said the one that goes all the way, thank you.
And now Jetstar offering free flights for children, but some conditions apply. While we're on children. Oh. Healthy ageing. Here's a creative gentleman. Now, for anyone getting married, here's a cautionary tale. Just be careful throwing the bouquet. Irish first aid. And this is an old one, but still one of my favourites.
Well done. Good humour, Shane. Our time is up. Someone has won a copy of our book, You Won't Die Laughing. The person who's got a pink balloon on the back of their seat. Anyone here? Should be around here somewhere. Pink balloon, it's you. Round of applause. Well done, congratulations. Mark, thank you for being a good sport. I want to give you one of our DVDs so that when you go home you can keep watching me. Round of applause for Mark being a good sport. Thank you for that. You're all set up for the next session?
Yeah, really.
Oh, good on you. Oh.
I feel set up.
Don't have the break. Come on, I'll set you up with a few things. All right. Some of you have been given a Joy Germ card. You should all have one of those little yellow cards, Joy Germ cards. Have you got the handouts? Have you, Shane? Good. That's just a little exercise in gratitude, and I think Bruce talked about that. To be a part, think about it for a minute, managers and leaders, as we close this session. Think about the privilege to be in your position. Number one, to be a part of the working world and get paid for what you do. Number two, to work in healthcare where you make a difference every day to other people's lives. What's that worth? And number three, to be part of a group, part of this conference, part of a profession that continues to improve and continues to learn. And that sort of thing will take you well into your old age. And I'll say one thing about ageing, because a few of us are over 50. Where are we? Over 50? It's not how many years you've lived, it's how much energy you've got for the life you're living. And I know people who are 20 and 30 who don't have my energy level or enthusiasm or zest for life. So I think that when you have your job in your senior years, you bring with a wealth of experience. The important thing is to be renewing, re-energising and being inspired. And I hope that from this session today, you've been inspired somewhat to look at things in a different way. I hope this conference, congratulations to all the people who organised it, is a source of great inspiration, because it's ideas, energy, effort and that big inspiration, I think, that keeps you going at your level. Thank you for including us in your conference. All the very best for you and your future. Thank you.